Hello, everyone, and everyone joining me on LinkedIn, everyone watching after the fact. Thank you for coming. First question. Have you ever felt guilty for not doing a good habit? That's what we're going to be talking about today. Let me just make sure everything is nicely set up. There we go. All right. So, yeah, that's the question we're going to be talking about. Have you ever felt guilty for not doing a good habit? Like waking up at 5 a.m., or journaling, or meal prepping, or exercising, especially exercising, anything like that. And I'm here to give you some things to do instead of beating yourself up. And the first thing is we're going to talk about the 3 lies that that ruin our good habits. So I'm going to look at my notes real quick. Great. I'm going to take a nice deep breath because it'll probably make me slow down, and it's a good habit that I have picked up. All right. So there's 3 lies that make us basically quit habits that we know are good. We think are good. We think are good ideas. People tell us about them. Yeah, I'm going to do it. And then we drop it after a few days. And the reason why we drop them often is kind of actually like it's kind of happens before we even start. It's like we're setting ourselves up to drop them quickly. So let's get to these lies. The first lie that this comes from like society, comes from inside our heads also to a large extent, because we've been so conditioned. And it's what I call the virtue trap, which is the lie that good habits make you a good person. And the analogy that I like to use is a hammer. If you have a hammer, maybe everything in the world looks like a nail, but using a hammer every day doesn't make you a good person. It just helps you build shelves or, garden beds or something like that. So it's easy to forget that habits are just tools. They're just tools for helping us live easier lives and more satisfying lives. They are not a constant test of our like willpower or discipline, right? And that's what most people see them as, is a constant test of willpower and discipline. And we think I have to live up to this habit because I happen to think that it'll be good for me. And then what happens is we trap ourselves in the virtue trap, meaning, oh, this habit, this is a test of whether I'm a good person, whether I have willpower and discipline. And, and that is basically, that's a trap that you trap yourself in, which is that the more I do the habit, the more I'm like trying to prove that I'm a good person. But you also, I think, intuitively just know that that's not true. And you, on the other side of it, is when you start doing a habit, you have no idea whether it's going to get the result that you want. A habit is a tool to get a result. And you don't know if it's going to get that result. So, but we kind of like put that aside in the beginning. We're like, no, I know this is good for me. I got to do it. And it's a test whether I'm, have enough willpower or whatever. And so we don't even like ask that question. Like, wait a second, is this habit actually going to give me what I think I want or what I think it will give me? And so we end up trapping ourselves into like, I have to do this habit. I am contained in this habit now. It is me. It has to be me. Otherwise, I'm not good. And and our brains are designed to escape traps. So when you put yourself in a trap, you can be very confident that you will escape that trap, whether it's in 3 days or 3 weeks. So the virtue trap is lie number 1. And in fact, your virtue has nothing to do with habits. Again, they're just tools. And if they're not getting the result you want, then they're not good habits for you. Which kind of brings us to the second point, the second lie, which is someone else's routine will work for me or will work for you. And I think this is also reinforced a lot in the media because people are like, oh, 7 good habits, right? 7 habits of highly successful people. Cool. Elon Musk's 5 morning habits or whatever. And like, we're constantly getting these messages that like, these good people have these habits. And if you have these habits, you will be a good person like them. So virtue trap is also hidden in there too, right? But even more than the virtue trap is these habits are going to make you good. So, and these habits are just, maybe people interviewed, let's say Elon Musk, right? They've interviewed him and he's like, oh, I do this and this and this maybe, right? And like that in and of itself, thinking that his habits are going to make my life better or in some way like his are, if you dissect it, if you really think about it for a little while, you start to realize that that is preposterous. And I use that word, the heaviest word I could think of for like false or untrue. It is preposterous. Why? Because a habit is something that is embedded into your life. And each person's life, like your life, my life, someone else's life, each life is so complex to the point that it is unique, even if we have similar hair color to other people or similar names or similar jobs. That is so surface level and such tiny data, like just a few data points, but the rest of your life, your whole life is so complex and unique. And a habit is something that is woven into your life. This is something you do every day or a lot of the time without thinking too hard about it. And so for Elon Musk, his habits are built into his life. So he would have to outline every point, like every minute of every day of every week for the last 5 years in order to give you the recipe to be him. But even before, like, it wouldn't make sense anyway, because even you'd have to go back before then and say, well, what, experiences gave him these beliefs or whatever. So it's preposterous. So instead of thinking like, okay, oh, this person, they did something cool. What did they do? We want to drop that and think, okay, even though it's very alluring, and I get it. Look, I have it too. When I see someone and they're like, oh, that person, I feel it myself. It's innate. You can't escape this feeling. But you can say, okay, I'm having this feeling of like, oh, I wish I had their secret. And then you can control the next thing you do, which is to say, okay, instead of thinking about them, I'm going to think about my life and the factors that are involved in my life and the chain of behaviors that lead me from waking up in the morning to what I do next, to going to sleep at night. That sequence of waking up, what I do next, going to sleep, that sequence will give you all the secrets. That sequence is the secrets. So think about that for a second. Because if you're going to put a habit into your days, it has to fit perfectly into that sequence. Wake up, do something. Now put this habit in, do something, right? And that habit, if it's too disruptive to the rest of your sequence, or if it just doesn't fit, then it's not going to work for sure. Because you're basically like, it's like, you could think of it like a chain. And if you're going to try to replace one link, you have to replace it with like a similar kind of link. You can't replace a link in a chain with a tiger, for example. You can't just be like, okay, here's a chain. I'm going to cut off one link, separate the halves, and stick a tiger in between and just connect all 3 of them, right? That's preposterous also. It doesn't make any sense. But that's the point, is that if you're going to stick a habit into your life, it has to already fit. And so that might lead you to ask, how do you start a new habit that already fits into your life? That's a good question. Think about that. How do you start a new habit that already fits into your life? That's not somebody else's idea and my ideal of somebody else's habit that I just kind of jam into my life and hope for the best. More than hope for the best, that I jam into my life and then test myself. Like, am I a good person or not? It's a lot. So back to the question, how do you fit a habit into your life? And the answer is you build it out of your life. You have to know what's already there. Like the sequence of your day, and it changes every day, right? So it's even more complicated than this, but let's just say you did the same thing every day. You wake up, you do X, you do Y, you do Z, you do A, etc. Then you go to sleep. You probably would be hard pressed to say what all of those things are. You could have general ideas like, I wake up, I have coffee, highlights. I have coffee, I take a shower, I go to work, right? Okay, I'm at work for 5 hours. I don't even, I'm in meetings. These are highlights, right? And okay, maybe I have an hour for lunch, maybe I have whatever. But your day has 24 hours and, 3,600 seconds per hour. So it's a lot of seconds, even minutes, let's just say. It's a lot of minutes in your day. And a habit could take a minute. So you can build a habit into your day if you know what's going on. But if you don't know what's going on and you're just like, oh, cool habit, that should go into my day, then there's definitely no way to do it. So that brings us to lie number 3, which is that streaks matter. And there's a little caveat here, but most streaks don't matter. In fact, all streaks don't really matter. You can miss a day. You can miss 2 days. It doesn't matter. The question is, are you the kind of person who knows how to build habits into your life that will change your life? And a streak doesn't tell you that. A streak, so it's like, okay, I meditated every day for 30 days, let's say. I meditated every day for 15 minutes for a year. Maybe 2 years even. Yeah, 1 year was 5 minutes, 1 year was 15 minutes. And I don't meditate now. And sometimes I wish, I did, but it's sort of a long story short is that it's not for me right now. And I know that because I do self-science. And so that, like, paying attention to everything, I've done that a lot. And it might have been for me at some point. And habits might be for you at some point. Sorry, there's a little tangent here. But my point is, streaks don't matter, because the streak only matters if the habit is fragile in your life. Like, I don't know if I'm going to really do this. I don't know if it's really going to stick for me. And so you're like, okay, well, let me make a streak so that I, pay attention to the streak, so that, like, the streak itself is important. And streaks are powerful, but they are equally powerful and equally destructive, because once you break a streak, I don't know if any of you have ever done Duolingo and had a big streak and broken it. It's hard to start a streak again after you have. And by the way, I pay attention. I have a streak on Duolingo as well. I think I'm almost at 1,400 days, but it doesn't matter. Like, that's sort of something that I have deep faith in. And now at this point is for the streak. If I break that streak, I don't know what I'm going to do, So, like, okay, I have that streak. Can I speak Spanish or Chinese, which I've been studying on there? No. Maybe one day I will. I don't know. But right now, all it is a streak. And cool. But, like, if I break that streak, it's over, I think. I don't know what's going to happen. It's like a black hole. So what I'm saying is, so streaks don't really matter. What matters is, like, I want to learn how to speak Spanish and Chinese. And if I, needed to do that more urgently, then I would go to a place where I would speak it every day, or I would, get a tutor or something. It's not that urgent. So I'm using Duolingo and using a streak, and that's great. But the streak itself is like, now it's its own thing. It's not like, it's sort of keeping me connected, but if I break it, it's going to be really hard. And so like most people, and for me, this is what happened with meditation. Like once you break it, especially if you've been doing, let's say, meditating for a year, and then you kind of stop for like 2 weeks, you're not getting back on, because you're like, oh man, like it's not part of my identity anymore. I'm not on the streak train. And so you're just not getting back on. So streaks are like false idols, false gods. And when they fall, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. And so if you really want a habit to be in your life, you can't rely on streaks. So what do you rely on? And actually, I will say the caveat that I mentioned before is that there is one streak that matters. There's one streak, which is the king/queen/father/mother of all habits. And that habit is paying attention to your life. Paying attention to your life every day is really it's the god of habit. It's the habit that creates all good habits. Because if you're not paying attention, then you will fall prey to the virtue trap and the second lie, which is that someone else's routine will work for me. And you say, oh, that's cool. That person's cool. I wonder what habits they have. Oh, they have this habit. I got to make that my habit. And then, oh, maybe I'll have a streak. Cool. And then I build the streak. And then suddenly, the streak is the most important thing. And then when that breaks, the habit goes. But the secret and the kind of devastating part is that habit wasn't necessarily helpful in the first place for you. The only way you know if a habit is helpful in the first place is if you're paying attention to your life every day. That is the habit of habits. It's a meta habit, actually. And so that leads to self-science, which is a system that I have created for myself, and I have clients using it, but it's still like, in the sort of launch phase, and sort of like beta phase. But I've been personally using it for 9 months, and I've got a few clients who've been using it for about that much time as well. And basically, it has changed my life. And the reason is it gets rid of the virtue trap. It gets rid of the idea that like other people's habits will work for me. And it just really nails down on paying attention every day, and you test habits. You experiment with habits. And then you get data and you get AI insights, and those tell you whether your habits are worth continuing or not. They tell you whether they are like fitting into your life or not. And they give you ideas about how to tweak them so that they do fit better and have a bigger impact. Because again, habits are tools. They are tools. And so you're just trying to find the right tool to fit in your life. If it doesn't fit, it's not the right tool for now. Maybe later, but not now. And it's hard to know whether something fits or not. That's right. So when you have actual data, statistics, correlations, AI interpreting your data and your statistics, then you have more faith more quickly, and you have better decision making more quickly. Because, if you're just throwing spaghetti at the wall, throwing habits at the wall, seeing what sticks, then you're going entirely on gut feeling, which is important, but a lot of things are happening in your life. And so if you don't have a focused thing that's actually like helping you pay attention, it's hard to pay attention and really track, everything that you're doing. And a new habit, especially, like, how is this fitting into my life? That's a complicated question. So it's hard to track on your own. You can do self-science on your own with a spreadsheet and any AI app. I happen to have built an app for myself, basically. And so, it does the work for me. But I found some really life-changing things from it. One of the things that I've been doing for the last 2 years, really, but in different forms, is 100 reps of exercise per day. And whenever I tell people that, they're always like, "What? Like, what do you do? First of all, how do you do it? And what are the exercises you do?" And they are falling prey to which of the 3 lies? Number 2, number 1. Good habits make you a good person. Maybe a little bit. Maybe I'm falling prey to that too, right? Like when you have a good habit, like I said, if you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. If you have a good habit, you might be like, I'm a good person. That's okay. But don't think other people are good people because they have good habits. Especially not me. Don't think I'm a good person because I have a good habit. And lie number 2, 100 reps a day of exercise, my good habit, that's very key to my life, is going to work for you. I don't know if it will work for you. It absolutely will not work for you in the form that it works for me. It's got to be different for you, 100%. But I know that it works for me because I built it out of my life. It fits into my life because I built it from my life. So that's the whole thing. And, I'll just kind of close by saying that, summing it up, habits are not about morality. They're not about whether you're a good person or not. They're not even really about discipline or willpower. They are about fit, context, habit, fit. If you have context, habit, fit, or life habit, fit, whatever you want to call it, then the habit's going to stick and it'll have an impact. If you don't have that fit, then the habit's not going to stick and it's not going to have an impact, because a habit has to stick in order to have an impact. Does that make sense? If a habit doesn't stick, it cannot have an impact by definition, because it's a small thing you're putting into your life every day. It has to stick. But it also does need to have an impact. And that's where, if you're paying attention and you're doing stats, that's how you know. So you figure that out with experimentation, reflection. And I've pared it down to, it takes 1 minute to log your data for the day. Like with self-science in particular, it's you get a little form and it's just like numbers. You put, okay, number, this is how much exercise I did, how many reps, 50, 100, whatever, how many minutes of meditation, whatever, right? There's just, you put in the numbers and then you're done. You can take some notes too. Notes are very useful. And then at the end of the week, you get your stats, you get AI insights and stuff like that. And that's how you build it from your life, from the ground up in your life. So it fits perfectly. So yeah, you are not, humans are not in the business of living up to habits, some ideal habit. Habits should be in the business of living up to our life. And if you want to build a habit, you got to build it into your life / from your life. So that is my call to action for you, is start designing habits that fit who you are, and not like trying to borrow from other people or rely on streaks or shame yourself into having willpower or something like that. So if you're interested in learning more about this, you can download, I have a free checklist, a free cheat sheet on how to do this. And you can, at least at the time of this recording, you can get a free 20-minute habit consultation to see where you're at with your habits, what can be better, what sort of, what are your blocks and your unlocks. So that is all for today. Thank you for watching.